Instead of calling this the importance of hating on the headliner, I really should have called this the importance of staying open. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world, back with another Comedy Tip Tuesdays. Some of you seem to be enjoying it. I know I've gotten some new subscribers, so if you're new watching and you haven't subscribed yet, do me a favor and subscribe. Anybody that has questions, please comment down below. Even if you just say a hey, what's up, that helps me with the algorithm. And of course, like the video, that helps out too. So if you can do all three of those things, or whichever one of those things you haven't done yet, I would really appreciate it. I decided to call this the importance of hating on the headliner because it's kind of clickbaity, but also because it kind of makes sense, because it's something I've noticed and it's something that I think is important to talk about. But when I was thinking about it, because, of course I think about like a catchy title first, when I come up with an idea, I'm like, okay, let me think of something that's like a catchy title. And that's what I first thought about it. And then I kind of caught myself making the same mistake that I realized somebody else had made, a newer comic. And I was like, yeah, maybe it's the importance of staying open is what I really meant. But I decided to go with the original title anyway, because what's wrong with a little clickbait between friends? So here's the thing. One night I was hanging out at Wise Guys Comedy Club here in Las Vegas. I had gone to Wise Guys specifically to watch a headliner. He's a friend of mine. He's been a friend for many years now. His name's Nick Guerra. And I love Nick Guerra. But I know a lot of you don't know me, but if you know me personally, you know that I will say that I hate people that I really like. Like if I really like somebody and they say something silly, I'll just be like, oh, I hate them. And so what happened was I knew this newer comic and he was sitting like in the back of the room. And I had originally been sitting closer to the audience to watch the openers. I knew the openers. And I, at a point, decided I didn't want to sit with the audience anymore and decided to go sit back where the comics are. So once I decided to go sit back where the comics are, Nick Guerra had just said something ridiculous. And so I looked at the newer comic and I was like, I hate Nick Guerra. And then the newer comic was like, yeah, I'm doing everything I can to not kill myself and get out of this room. And I was thinking, all you have to do is pay your tab. So he goes on to critique every single joke. And when I say every single joke, I'm not exaggerating even a little bit. Every single joke, to the point where Nick got the light, which he got the light at 40 minutes, and the guy was still critiquing every single joke. So finally I got annoyed because like 3 nights before I had just seen this guy not even able to complete his 5-minute guest set that he was doing at a local show here in Las Vegas. And it just got on my nerves. And I was like, you suck. And I literally told him he sucked. And I realized that I should have been nicer about that. But I just got so annoyed because here I am watching this guy that can't complete 5 minutes criticize a nationally touring headliner who has been on The Tonight Show, done an hour for HBO Max, Comedy Central, won Big Sky Comedy Festival one year, and just a beast of a comic all the way around. And this guy's criticizing every single joke, can't stand what he's doing, but can't complete 5 minutes. And it really did get on my nerves. And like I said, I should have been nicer about it. I'm not necessarily proud of the way I handled it. It did turn into an argument between the two of us. And I realized that really my thing with this guy was, if instead of criticizing every word that comes out of this headliner's mouth, you instead were to look at maybe what he's doing right and why it is that he's in the position that he's in, maybe you could eventually find your way to headlining clubs instead of sitting in the back of the clubs in the dark criticizing people that are where you want to be. And so I realized that this is something that's important for comedians of all levels, because while I wasn't hating, I had a similar situation happen to myself not too long ago. Again, Wise Guys Comedy Club here in Las Vegas. A friend of mine, Brian Shenanigan, who's a newer comedian, had hit me up while we were chatting, and he had let me know that he was opening for a clean headliner, and so he had to be completely clean. And he had let me know that the Friday night was a little bit rough, and then this was Saturday, so, it's the Saturday night show, obviously. And he was saying that, he's like written a bit more and he's made some adjustments. And so he's going to go back and do it, which I'm always proud of comics when they're willing to actually work on their stuff and open themselves up to as many opportunities as possible. So I went to go check out Brian. I got there in time to start the show because I was running a little bit late that night, but I did get to start the show and actually see it. And At first, there was the feeling like I'm just going to watch Brian and I'm going to get out of here. But then there was a part of me that was like, why would anybody have a clean show in Las Vegas, especially on the weekend? And how could this possibly be any fun or funny? But like I realized at that point that I was now being closed-minded, because what I need to do is understand that just because I'm more edgy and raw doesn't mean that that's the only way you can be funny, and doesn't mean that there isn't an audience for clean Jim Gaffigan, Brian Regan, clean comics that are obviously very successful and able to make clean comedy funny for a mass audience. So I went ahead and decided to stick around, and I ended up watching the entire show. The headliner was a comic by the name of Steve Solberg, who I hadn't met yet. Super funny, super fun. Actually, his show was really great. The audience was absolutely loving it. So I was clearly wrong in the fact that, who wants a clean show in Vegas? There were plenty of people there. Clearly, there's an audience for a clean show in Vegas. Brian Shenanigan at the beginning of the show had made the adjustments he said that he was going to make, and he had a great set. So I don't know what had happened on the Friday, but I trust him if he says that he didn't necessarily have a good set, because as a comic, that's not something you want to say if you've been doing it for a while or you're brand new. You don't want to say that you didn't have a good set, but he was being honest with himself and being honest with me and told me that he hadn't had a good set. So I believe him, but I will tell you that on night 2, Saturday, when I showed up, he had a great set, and it was a great show. It was a great experience. At the end of the night, I let Steve know that I thought he did a great job, not like acting like I'm anybody, but just comic to comic, just being like, that was a great show. Good job tonight. And he really had surprised me that an audience in Vegas on a Saturday night would want a clean show. And so that's something that I guess I've been a big proponent of for a long time. It's just that particular night, I personally wasn't practicing what I preach, or maybe thinking the way that I should be thinking, because really I think that you should always try to find the positive in everything when it comes to learning in comedy or seeing what's successful or what might be able to get you to the next level. Like a lot of times you'll see people hating on headliners that are from like YouTube or TikTok, or when Vine was still around, like there's always something new where somebody gets popular, they go viral, or they just have a big audience, and then they start headlining, and you'll see a bunch of comedians like, they suck, how could they possibly be getting headlining spots, and they shouldn't be in the clubs. And it's like, well, I don't really know why you would waste your time in that negative energy, when instead you could ask yourself, what is it that they're doing that is making them so successful? Like, clearly there has to be something that's making these people get the work that you think that you should be getting instead. And with me, when I first heard about Steve's show, like I said, I wasn't, I was just thinking about who wants a clean comedy show in Las Vegas. But I wasn't wondering why he was a headliner. I wasn't wondering why he was there and I wasn't working that night. It wasn't anything about that. It really was just, technically I worked Wise Guys the week before, for New Year's headlined. And so it wasn't anything like coming from that. It was just me being closed-minded enough to think that nobody in Vegas would want to see a clean show on a Saturday night. And I turned out to be wrong. So I would challenge a lot of you to, the next time you think that somebody shouldn't be in the position that they're in, maybe see what it is they're doing right instead of trying to look for everything that's wrong. And even if you still think a lot of the stuff they're doing is wrong, then maybe try to reverse engineer that and see how you would do it in a way that's right. And so it's like, I feel like you should always stay open to learning. You should always be open to trying to figure something out instead of right away discounting it and deciding that it's worthless. So I've got a couple more Comedy Tip Tuesdays that have been suggested to me. A good friend of mine asked me to do a video on the importance of vouchers and recommendations. So that's coming up. If you guys have any ideas, please include it down below in the comments and let me know so that I maybe have another idea. I'll keep doing Comedy Tip Tuesdays until I run out of things to talk about. I hope you guys like this one. Please do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.